Hey guys, Jonathan White here. Apologize, I'm at the Miami International Airport on vacation, and so you might hear a little noise, but I hope it's not too many points off. But I'm doing my video this week on John Locke. Last week I did a video on how he was influenced by the Reformation. This week is going to be about how he understood our religious tolerance as he wrote about that, and if it was a narrow focus or a broad focus. So the first three, or the three articles that I looked at this week through the JSTOR database to examine this, and so the first article is by Joyce Ahmad, and it's entitled "John Locke and Muslim Liberalism." And Joyce Ahmad argues that John Locke's theory of religious toleration, especially the idea that belief cannot be coerced, has relevance beyond its original Christian context, even in Muslim thought. She gets this idea from his philosophy, which holds that belief cannot be coerced and must be freely chosen, a principle that some contemporary Islamic thinkers also emphasize in their interpretations of religious text. She quotes that belief cannot be compelled by force, end quote. From this idea, she argues that Locke's idea can apply beyond Christianity, including Islamic thought, since this is a belief. I think this is a far stretch given his background. His background is the context of the English Civil War. His parents were Protestants. He was brought up in the Anglican Church, and so he does have that background. And many of his quotes is very Christian. He talks about Christ being the Messiah and whatnot. And so I'll get to that here in a second. The second article is by Frederick Griffin, and it is entitled John Locke and Religious Toleration. And in this article, Griffin quotes, Locke next turns to a consideration of how far the duty of toleration extends, end quote. He illustrates this by a quote by Locke from Locke's book of the Four Letters of Toleration. And that quote from Locke is, "And what is required from everyone by it. No church is bound by the duty of toleration to retain any such persons in her bosom as after admonition continues obstinately to offend against the laws of this society," end quote. In sum, Griffin points, or his point is that a thriving society requires religious toleration. I believe this is necessary. However, Griffin will argue that Locke includes all religions. The research I have found suggests more focus on Protestant faiths, as he also criticizes Catholicism in a lot of his writings. The third article is by Samuel C. Pearson Jr., and it is entitled "The Religion of John Locke and the Character of His Thought." In this article, Pearson challenges all other liberal thought by showing that Locke's ideas are rooted in sincere Christian belief. Furthermore, Pearson argues that Locke's Christian background influences views on natural rights, morality, and equality, stemming from the idea that all humans are created in the image of God. To prove this point, Pearce states, and I quote, "Locke's concern is that of an Anglican firmly committed to the Christian faith. That faith is discerned primarily as belief that Jesus is God's Messiah," end quote. To solidify his case, he states, and I quote, "Locke is sharply distinguished from the deist in grounding morality not in the natural law, but in faith in Jesus as Messiah," end quote. Regarding the methodologies, of the three sources, they all employ textual analysis, relied on primary sources. Additionally, all use historical and comparative interpretation. In conclusion, John Locke's historical context shaped his philosophical ideas as his background in Protestant Christianity influenced and in some ways limited his understanding of religious toleration. Thank you.